Hello, and welcome to Just Therapist Things, where we talk all things therapy. My name is Jordan, and I am an associate marriage and family therapist from Southern California. I currently work in a private practice where we focus on child anxiety reduction, and I also do some work for a nonprofit cancer support organization. Major life changes such as marriage, moving, job change, loss, going to school, having a child, all of it affects our mental health and therefore our brains. Significant life changes rattle us, even if they are positive. Same with seemingly minor life changes and expected changes. They are all unsettling and everyone copes differently. Today, I will be talking about what is going on in our brains during life changes, how change affects our mental health, and how to cope. I am looking towards my own big life change with a move to a completely new city. It is scary and exciting and bittersweet all in one, and I know it is affecting me. We are about 2 months out from the move, and it is definitely becoming more real. Along with that, I am shifting gears with my job by going virtual and transitioning clients. I am anticipating how this move will affect my work life, social life, and family life. It is a lot to deal with. I have noticed that I have been a bit more anxious and on edge recently, and my sleep has been off. This is no doubt due to the stressors of the upcoming big life change. Even though this is an anticipated change and I can prepare for it, anxiety is still normal. It's like my brain knows that a lion attack is about to come, so it is getting prepared for fight or flight. During times of high stress, it is so important to acknowledge what your own physical responses to anxiety are and how they may present during times of high stress. If you need a refresher on the physical manifestations of anxiety, go listen to my episode called Physical Symptoms of Anxiety: What is Happening to Me? If you know how anxiety presents in your body, you can normalize the sensations that come up during high periods of stress. My go to panicky symptoms are chest tightness, heart palpitations, and feeling dizzy or off balance. These have been present a bit more recently, and I keep having to remind myself that there is a lot going on, so it makes sense to be feeling this way. Even positive life changes, such as getting married, having a baby, getting your dream job, etc., can cause us discomfort. Know that this discomfort does not mean that you aren't cut out for the job, you have cold feet, made a mistake, but it is our body's way of protecting us from the uncertainty of change. So, what is exactly happening in our brains during changes? First off, the ability of the brain to change in response to experiences is known as neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is hugely important because it helps us to take in knowledge and lived experiences, develop our brains after birth, and it also helps our brains to heal post stroke, surgery, or other traumatic event. Everything we experience in life creates new pathways that leave a lasting mark on our brains. Our brains and bodies are made to adapt as we age and take in new experiences, and our brains crave new experiences and always desire to be learning and growing. However, they also love routine and hate uncertainty. Having a routine conserves energy and doesn't mess up the equilibrium up there. Something routine like getting out of bed or opening a cabinet does not take much brain power because we do these things every day, and they become a common structure and pathway in our basal ganglia. Sudden changes, specifically like a death, natural disaster, or injury, shake up the brain's equilibrium and cause significant stress and anxiety. These sudden, unexpected, tragic circumstances are, of course, the worst. Our primitive brains see these unfamiliar situations as a threat, and the response is a way to protect us from the perceived danger. So, the amygdala activates the fight or flight response. With life changes, there is typically a sense of loss, and your brain goes through a grieving period for the way things once were. Lisa M. Schulman of the American Brain Foundation says, grief is a normal protective process. This process is an evolutionary adaptation to promote survival in the face of emotional trauma. I will have a full episode dedicated to grief. However, here is a quick rundown of how grief affects the brain. Grief is pretty much a perpetual state of fight or flight, and your brain is trying to protect you from a threat. Grief, in a way, is a threat. It's a threat to your routine, your identity, the life that you once knew. Sometimes people also experience a grief fog, which is your brain's way of dissociating to protect itself from the emotional trauma. Grief can permanently rewire your brain, but it is also fluid. More on that in the grief episode, and see the articles linked in the episode details for more information. With anticipated changes such as marriage, a baby, a move, a career change, your brain needs to adapt to that new situation and form new routines, so therefore, new neural pathways. In positive and anticipated changes, there are still so many unknowns and new experiences to be had. Although there is usually time to adapt and prepare, when the change occurs, it is still a rupture in the familiar neural pathways, and until your brain adapts to its new normal, it could be a little off. So let's talk about mental health. Big life changes can definitely create anxiety and depression or exacerbate existing mental health challenges. Naturally, there is a lot of stress. Stress is a normal hormonal response that helps propel us into action, and it is helpful because it motivates and energizes us. But stress can also affect us negatively, physically and psychologically, especially with chronic periods of stress. Chronic stress actually throws the brain into survival mode by increasing fear and reducing memory and nerve growth. On the other hand, lower levels of stress and life changes give the brain an opportunity to strengthen or weaken connections between the nerves based on the severity and duration of the emotional response. So, what that all means pretty much is that chronic and higher stress disrupts the brain more, and clearly there can be a higher anxious response. Whereas lower levels of stress are more adaptable, but they also give your brain an opportunity to better assess the situation and figure out what to do. So, more on how to lower stress levels coming in a moment. Personality and temperament influences how each individual person experiences life changes. If someone is a self-proclaimed risk taker that is always looking for adventure and always changing the routine, big life changes may be easier on your mental health. For someone like me who is a planner and who doesn't love surprises, changes can be harder. You may have heard of the Big Five personality traits that were developed by D.W. Fisk. These traits are openness, agreeableness, extroversion, conscientiousness, and neuroticism. These have evolved more and more over the years, but they are pretty good at encompassing the major personality themes. Research has shown that having higher levels of openness, extroversion, and agreeableness can help one to be more adaptable to change. Higher levels of conscientiousness and neuroticism can make someone less adaptable to change. There are a lot of online quizzes and such to see your personality type, but one of the best ones and kind of the original ones is the one that I linked in the episode details. So check that out. If you are having a hard time with change, consider your personality type. You could just have an innate predisposition to not receiving change well, and that is okay. And know that it is normal for everyone of any personality type to be impacted by change. When faced with a big change, it often feels that there is so much out of your control and so much that is uncertain. It feels incredibly overwhelming. If you can, stop and think about little things having to do with this change that you can control. It could be something as little as choosing what to wear, or it could be as big as I have control over choosing my baby's name. Try to hack your brain to focus on what you can control. Something else that really adds to the overwhelm in the face of life changes are cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortions are irrational and often negative thoughts that pop up as a reaction to stress and anxiety, but they can also cause stress and anxiety. Cognitive distortions are an automatic brain response, and again, it is our brain's way of protecting us from a perceived threat. However, most times cognitive distortions pop up at unwarranted times because our brains are misinterpreting a threat due to our own anxieties. I know, that seemed like I was talking in a circle, but everything is really so intertwined. So one of the main cognitive distortions that you have probably heard of and that I have mentioned in previous episodes is catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is the classic what-if thought spiral. When big life changes are approaching, this can take the form of, what if I make the wrong decision? What if I don't fit in? What if I am not good enough? And those what-if thoughts take on the snowball effect and get greater and greater and greater until you are an anxious mess. To fight off cognitive distortions, look at the evidence first and then challenge the distortion. If the thought is, what if I make the wrong decision? Contradict that by saying, I have made this decision because of X, Y, and Z. I did not make this decision lightly, and I thought long and hard about this. So that is evidence. Then say, even if I make the wrong decision, I will learn from my mistakes. Or, this is not the wrong decision. I got this. And that is challenging it. This all is called engaging in self-talk. To cope with a major change, it is also so important to fill your bucket. So what does that even mean? Well, think of your energy, sanity, and productivity as water in a bucket. When you are on the go, completing so many tasks, not having any downtime, your water levels lower. It can be the same if you were expending a lot of emotional energy as well, and using your emotions and just being drained by all the emotional weight that you're carrying. Your water levels will lower again. To fill those water levels back up, you have to take time to rest and recharge. This really does look different for everyone, and it could be as little as doing some self-talk and breathing once in a while, and as big as going on a meditation retreat. It really just depends. Take note of what fills your bucket and remember that you cannot pour from an empty bucket. Another mental health curveball that can come from life changes is low self-esteem, confidence, or self-worth. Our identities are so tied to what we do, our environment, and who we surround ourselves with. With life changes, all of these aspects of our identity can be altered, and we can go through a little crisis. When life around us changes, it feels like we are changing. Remind yourself of who you are as a person and what qualities of yourself you will maintain throughout this change. Focus on the little day-to-day joys, and again, focus on what you can control. A routine could help with this so you have items to check off a to-do list. This seemingly small act increases the feelings of productivity and self-worth. Here is a little side story. So I grew up in California and I did a junior lifeguards camp for a few summers. And every summer we had a Navy SEAL day where we had a couple of real life Navy SEALs come and coach us that day. These days were absolutely more intense and draining than the other days of junior lifeguards. We had to run farther, swim farther, and do push-up contests and army crawl through the sand and all that. I remember one year a Navy SEAL was telling us about our buoy swim for that day. It would be a 5 buoy swim, which was more than we had ever done before. I think he could sense the fear in all of us young kiddos, and so he gave us some advice that has honestly stuck with me even 15 years or so later. He told us to not think of the task as a 5 buoy swim, because that is just so overwhelming and daunting to think about. He said, Instead, just focus on making it to the first buoy. Then once you get to the first one, focus on making it to the next. Once you get to the next one, focus on just making it to the next, and the next, and the next, and then you will eventually finish. I have used this in truly so many areas of my life since that experience, and it has helped me to not get overwhelmed, but instead get through daunting tasks or life moments. So thank you, Mr. Navy SEAL. I appreciate your words, but not the 5-buoy swim. Something important to mention is that there are mental health disorders that can arise from life changes. Adjustment disorder is a DSM diagnosable mental illness that directly relates to life changes. Symptoms of adjustment disorder begin within 3 months of the life change and can last up to 6 months. Adjustment disorder is pretty common, especially after a particularly stressful or negative life change. If you are experiencing overwhelming stress due to a life change that is affecting your day-to-day life, there's a possibility that it could be adjustment disorder. Other diagnosable mental illnesses with comorbidity to life changes are PTSD, a handful of anxiety disorders, and major depressive disorder, and sometimes personality disorders. Always seek help from a professional if you need help. It is always okay to ask for help, and it is such a huge sign of strength and so brave. Don't think that what you are going through is not, quote, big enough to seek out help for. As you just heard, any life change literally alters our brain chemistry, so why not have a little guidance and support when dealing with that? So to summarize how to cope with life changes, first, challenge negative thoughts, focus on what you can control and focus on little moments of joy. Take time to fill your bucket because you can't pour from an empty bucket. Develop a routine and break down the change into smaller pieces. Think Navy SEALs. Change sucks sometimes, and it is hard even when it is exciting. It is normal to be scared and excited at the same time. Remind yourself that what you are going through is normal and take steps to help yourself through this change. Good luck. Thank you for listening to Just Therapist Things, episode 11 on the psychology of life changes. I hope this was helpful in normalizing feelings and physiological signs that arise during life changes while exploring all the nuances that come with a life change. Talk to you soon.